All right. You ready?
Ready.
All right, gang. Here we are. We're back on the soapbox. We have a guest. Meagan Burns. This is episode 12 or 13. I have no idea. We're actually at the Reebok World Headquarters, throwing down. Meagan Burns is a member of Seminar Staff. She's worked at Reebok CrossFit One. She's worked at CrossFit One Nation, and now she runs Perignum CrossFit, which is a nonprofit essentially helping individuals. What's the proper
recovery from substance use disorder?
Yeah, so really cool stuff. So we'll chat. I'll let her chat about it at the end because that's really, really cool stuff. Also in the room off camera is Becca. She's essentially our fact checker. So we're really upping the game here on this podcast. We have a fact checker off camera, and we have a baller guest here. But the topic of conversation between Meagan and I, beyond just really busting on each other via social media, which is fun, and working together, is we chat a lot about finances and things like that. And she's like, hey, you got to do an episode about like finances and personal finances, whatever it might be. And so she has a bunch of questions. I really love her questions. She's always listening to the podcast and giving ideas, things like that. So wanted to kind of dive in a little bit, and hopefully it sparks some interest. And if you have any other questions, we can always chat about it on the later one. So I'll kind of let Meg steer the ship here. And then Becca's way smarter than all of us. So if we say something wrong, she'll let us know.
Cool. Yeah, I just, I'm always interested in finance, but like need it in more simpler terms. Austin is way more passionate about that than I am. So I figured I'd put together a list of questions. This first part is related to like personal questions,
okay,
and then the second part is gym related.
Cool.
All right. We're going to start out with, okay, so I have a scenario where I have to move a 401k
into an IRA.
And like, what do I do? And what does that mean? All the terminology. And can you, like, first of all, can you speak to a 401k? How much do you put in it? Like, what, like, some people say 8%, some people say 5%, whatever, you get matched.
Yeah, it's cool. So, the old 401k, I think one of the coolest, I was listening to a book, and I think it was behavioral economics. This guy, like some guy won the Nobel Prize or whatever. And it was really cool that they did this whole study, and it essentially equated to one of the biggest changes in retirement funding in the United States of America was that they simply changed when you go to work for a company, you're auto-enrolled into putting, I think it was 5% into your 401k. And that single-handedly changed, like, I think it went from like, some really small percentage of Americans actually funding their 401k into like a massive amount of people. So needless to say, no one really knows what a 401k is. They get employed and they're like, what's a 401k? Oh, that lowers the money I make every week or 2 weeks, so I'm not going to put it in. Yet it's essentially a way, we don't need to nerd out on it, and I'm by no means am I an expert. I just know enough to, know enough. But it's retirement, right? For the simplest way to put about it, it's a way to shield money from taxes. There's a couple ways you can do that, right? So it's tax-free in different ways. So it can go in there depending on the 401k you pick. And it allows you, one, to put money away and not really see it. It's unique. You can't really take it out without penalty for the most part. But it also grows. It's an investment as well. And it's one of those things that it's like compounding interest. Like if you do it from day one when you start working to 40 years later, you'll have a lot of money. And I think that's the best way to think about it. And it's how much to put in is really dependent on your budget, right? So like, you got to have a budget of what your lifestyle is, where you live, so on and so forth. But I think the 5% is a good number. If you have a comfortable living situation, just put more money in it, because you don't have to, depending on which one you pick, the taxes, you don't have to pay all the taxes right away on it or later on in life. And where else is it going to go? Where else is it going to grow? And oftentimes there's some unique, opportunities to. It stays relatively safe, but it can grow.
Mm-hmm. So then, what do you? If I have to move mine now, and it's not moving to a company that, since I work for a nonprofit, it's not moving it to that company. Yeah.
So it's essentially because I just moved one of my 401ks. So essentially, you have you have institutions like Fidelity has a 401k, and there's a plan that they work with a company. Say that company says we're done with it, or you want to move it, or you move a company, you leave to another job. So an easy thing to think about. All you have to do is call them up, say, hey, I want to transfer it. They do whatever they do to make sure it's appropriate, and you get a check essentially, and then you transfer that check into most likely an IRA. So it's just a different type of savings fund that grows a little differently, but it's very similar. It's based on income, certain things like that, but it's set up similarly, so you get none of the penalties or anything like that.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how to do that. I can be like, hey, I can roll it over into an IRA.
Yeah.
I have a financial planner and people that help me with that. But that's essentially what had to happen. So Fidelity sent me a check for my balance of the 401k because they're done with it. Then I actually sent it to my financial planner, and they put it into an IRA.
Okay.
Which I already had, because depending on the type of income you have, so if you have Schedule C income, which is income that comes from non-W-2 other sources, you then can qualify for, you can fund your own IRA. So it's based off income levels. So I had that just from other types of income. So you just kind of add it to that type of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 401k is going to go, and now it's not being matched by the company.
Yeah.
I need to pay off student loans. I need to build up my savings. So what's the recommendation? And do I still put into the 401k? Do I prioritize the savings and the loans?
Yeah, that's a great question. And because I actually ask my financial planner this question almost every time. It's all right, I have a car payment. Right, that's my debt.
I have a car payment.
Should I pay off my car? Now I have the cash to pay it off. Should I pay it off? And then so he's like, well, all right, well, let's look at the interest rate. Let's look at the cash, associated. So what's the balance? What's the interest rate? What's that look like? And then what is the rest of my money doing? So I have money in investments, things like that. Oh, well, I could spend, say, put a number on it, 20 grand to pay it off, right? Which is cool, but then what could that 20 grand actually be making? So is my portfolio, if I have investments, making more money than the interest that I'm paying on the vehicle, as an example? So in my scenario, it doesn't make sense to pay off the car. The payment makes sense. My interest rate's low enough, and the money is low enough where I actually can have I can make more money by keeping it in that setup, right? But again, that's very personal.
Yeah.
And this is why, I definitely recommend. Certainly, the younger you are, get someone to get help. Learn. Only reason I know is because I have a monthly meeting with my financial planner. Now I'm a nerd. I study, but I ask questions all the time. I push him on it, and he's super helpful. And then he tracks everything. It's like a personal budget. It's like a business, but he tracks it for my family. So the first thing that we did, because student loan is somewhat unique because it's usually high interest, things like that. I know that when we first worked with him, we did everything we could to pay off our student debt as soon as possible. And I know a lot of people that have done that. Now, that might not be possible for everyone. So a lot of it is kind of looking at, all right, what's the interest rate? What's that time? Can we cut it down? Things like that. And one could also say the same about, oftentimes people ask if they have a mortgage. Should I accelerate my payments for the mortgage? Again, you have to look at how much is the mortgage, what's the interest rate, can your money that is working elsewhere make more money over time? Because it's a time game. Everyone's like, oh, if you pay what is it, one extra, half a payment extra a year, you pay 6 extra payments. But all that means is you're accelerating how much you pay, which means you have less capital on hand now. You have to really evaluate your personal scenario. I think we're overlooking something.
What are we overlooking?
The fact that we're even having this conversation, most people this is way over their heads.
That's because my roommate is in finance.
Yeah, so your roommate's in finance, that's Becca. They're actually roommates. So not only is Becca in finance, but also roommates and just a baller CrossFitter too. But yeah, so we're having this conversation, which is this is very financially literate. And nothing against those that couldn't have this conversation, but I do think it's important for people to think about. Let's bring it back to the world of CrossFit, where if we started talking about CrossFit lingo, like hook grip and snatch and hip extension and kipping and words like AMRAP and blah blah blah, that is, you're now CrossFit literate, which means you have a predicated base of knowledge. Oftentimes, all right, you took on-ramp, you've been doing it for some time, you've gone through, you learned some fundamentals, and now we can have a higher level of conversation. I can speak to you, Meagan, about coaching at a much higher level than I can a member, right? Because you are way more literate in the world of coaching. When it comes to finance, it's the same thing, and you have to start basic. Most individuals don't even know that they have what a 401k is, or even how they're elected into it because their company auto elects them in.
Yeah.
So whether it's a roommate, whether it's a friend, whether it is you pay for someone to help you. Financial planners, yes, there's like a negative connotation, I think, out there with them. But find someone you trust. Ask friends. Like, people ask me all the time, the person I just trust the guy and he works well and I pay him a fee for his service. You know, what's the value? So if I pay X amount of dollars, I remember telling him this, and this is a good way I would recommend anyone is, hey, for my first year, if you're going to charge me $1,000 for your service, can you prove to me at the end of the year that you saved me $1,000 with your advice?
That's so good.
And if they're good, and you're most likely a normal human, they will, because you're making misses, whether it's on simple budgetary stuff or misses on savings, whatever it might be. But get some help so you can have this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talked about your car.
Yeah.
Do you lease your car?
So I own my car now. I used to lease when.
What do you think? Lease or buy?
Lifestyle. It's all based on lifestyle. So like when our headquarters was in Canton, I lived 3 miles down the road, right? Literally, not like it was 3 miles. I could get a 10,000 mile lease per year, and so I could get way more car than I could afford, but it was cheap, right? Now I buy because I drive, it's 50 miles a day. So I buy, and I also know that, at some point, if your miles are too high in a lease, it doesn't make sense. If you can have a super low mileage lease, it's great. So I own my truck. My wife leases hers because she works from home. I mean, if I could do like a 5,000 mile a year lease, which they don't do, we just do 10. We would.
Minimum, right?
Yeah, usually. But it's so like in February we'll go back, we'll return it. We're like, she's literally at like 10,000 miles because she works from home, which is great. So that's those things you really have to evaluate and do the math. Everyone's like, always buy, always buy. It's like, if you're really being prudent with cars, you never buy a new car. Just buy used. But okay, we're going to pick that up where we were at. No idea. I'm going to try to fix that in post-production. But
you get a lot of different income.
Yeah, so, while you're playing that. So you get a lot of different sorts of income, so you have to track that. And then expenses. So essentially what I had them do is they have a spreadsheet. If you can learn Microsoft, go back to school, take a class, learn Microsoft Excel. Again, Becca behind the camera she's taught me I would probably say elementary level Excel, and it's so helpful, and I still, hit her up and, but Microsoft Excel is a tool that you shouldn't be able to do anything in life without that skill. So beneficial. It's just a spreadsheet that tracks everything.
Yeah,
right?
So maybe if you don't have a financial planner, dive into Excel.
Yeah, and the reason why is, and their apps are cool, and I'll tell you that it just, at some point, integration's cool. It just nothing, as you get older, nothing integrates nicely. Just because you have so many different things, I have life insurance, but life insurance, it's kind of archaic, and so I have to manually put that stuff in there, and all these other things. I will tell you, credit cards have got credit cards are super, they itemize. I personally just got the Apple card, maybe because I'm an Apple aficionado, but really, so it's for our personal expenses. And it itemizes it really beautifully. It's super easy. So that's actually, my wife has one, I have one, and that's for personal only. So it's in no way, shape, or form could ever be, put on our taxes for business. What's nice, so that's our true personal budget. So my wife has a monthly budget and I have a monthly budget for anything we want. It's our stuff. And certainly when it comes to relationships, I think that's important to have. And it's nice because it's separate, gifts and things like that. But it's it tracks it to a T. So it's I can just and it's easy to see, and it tracks where you're at in the month. I think finding things like that work for you is helpful. And then really expense-wise, I have a credit card that would be essentially anything that I'm able to put under my Schedule C income, where I can write some of it off. So everything on that credit card I just give to my tax guy. And it's these are expenses. And if you have questions, let me know. And then I have another credit card on CrossFit things that are reimbursed, right? So that is a zero-sum equation. You can't obviously claim that. So segmenting however your lifestyle is set up, so I have a credit card for this or credit card for that. So it's super simple, which makes your life even easier. And the credit cards will budget for you too, for the most part, will show you where you're at. But trying to keep one thing for personal can be really helpful. Yeah. Because
I think I'm maybe living in the dark ages with I was going to ask you your thoughts on debit cards versus credit cards. So, what happened to me? So, I use...
Just don't use a debit card, ever.
Just listen. So, I use a credit card for, not the best reasons, back a while ago. So, how to get that squared away. But now I see it as, I don't ever want to get into that scenario, so I'm just going to use my debit card. But I know then I'm not accumulating points or whatever.
Right.
There's all sorts of things.
I think it's a good point, Megan, that you bring up, because I forget.
Never use a debit card.
Never. And one, it's your money. It's just. I don't even carry it with me. It's just
I should.
I carry I'll have I'll carry $100 of cash on me just if I need it. Always. That's it.
Good to know.
So I always keep some cash, because there are some places it's good to have cash. Yeah. And if I get jumped and robbed, I'm down $100. Whatever. That's the worst case scenario there, right? They take your debit card with, or you have it. That's a main vein to all of your money, credit cards insured and things like that. But I guess I hadn't thought of the point of hey, I've gone crazy on credit cards before, and I've developed bad habits. I think I don't know too much. Is there self-governing tactics or things like that? Where I literally applied for a credit card, and here's $30,000 of credit. I'm my gosh, I don't need that.
Well, I know you set yours to just pay it. Auto pay.
Yeah, auto pay.
Whatever the balance is. Yeah,
so that's what I do. So I've never carried a balance. So it's always about you just pay it off in full every single time.
Yeah.
And I definitely recommend that.
Never carried a balance.
Yeah, and so again, but if those that have struggled, right? I do think that,
I feel for a gym owner, I could see somebody open up a gym and just be okay, I'm going to throw all this on my credit card.
Yeah, and so I do think that understanding that, all right, well, it's sort of under a house, on your balance sheet, people are a house is an asset. No, it's a massive liability. You shouldn't look at your house as an asset. It's when I look at my portfolio, it's hey, this is how much you're worth. I'm no, that house has only cost me money. I bought it, and now I got to fix it. I got to upkeep it. Really understanding what it is. So you have a credit card. What does that mean? Why are you using that? One, it's safe. and smarter, right? Because you're protected.
That's
but
a good way to look at it.
It's smart, but also you can get points, right? So I have an Amazon card. It's great. I use that, and we use it for Amazon purchases, and we get the points, and we use Amazon. We have a kid, so it's great. For our travel, we have the travel credit cards, which has insurance and protection and some perks and benefits. The TSA pre-check, things like that works for our life, and there are credit, all sorts of out there that have to fit your lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And I think that, everyone try to look for what's the right fit, the perfect fit. You really have to evaluate your lifestyle to fit, because for most people, life's relatively simple, right? It's like I have a job, I have an income, and then that's where the income comes. Well, great. So that makes your spreadsheet a lot easier. Mm-hmm. And what are your expenses? Well, I have some debt. I have my living expenses from rent or mortgage, utilities and all that stuff. And then really you have your student loans, and then you have entertainment, and you just gotta whatever that looks like. And then there should be X amount left over to put into savings. Mm-hmm. And then because the money coming in each month is also not including whatever you're putting into your 401k or your benefits or things like that.
So with sorry, go ahead. So now being 1099 at one of my jobs, I'm putting in about 30% for taxes. Is that a number that you would suggest?
I would say more. I would say I would put 40%.
Oh, okay.
Personally, so 1099, if you get paid $1,000 for something you do, you get $1,000, and it's not taxed. Just so we're clear, I've always put away 40% for that, just because I've never had a year where I've been like, oh, I put,
I
really,
think people just say like 30%,
and really you should be paying quarterlies. You should be paying quarterly taxes.
Yeah, that gives me a lot of stress.
And this is again where you should if you have someone that does your taxes, which if you're getting paid 1099, you probably should.
Tom does mine.
Yeah. So and as long as you can estimate it, I think it's the right way to do it. It's technically the legal way to do it, depending on a certain amount of money. But I would do it that way too, because then you're covered there. It's not like they estimate it. It's not you have to put, and then you should sort of evaluate for like a 5 to 10% miss up, or usually up. If it's down, great. You get some money back.
Yeah.
So, and they do a good job with that. I mean, I always have an emotional problem with giving the government an interest-free loan if the taxes are off. But very very rarely have they've been that off where I gave them too much money. Usually I have to give them more. We're in Massachusetts, so yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the summit about making yourself an LLC or a business. So my question, or I was getting from a couple other people, like, hey, you can make yourself an LLC or turn yourself into a business. But then we talked about it. I have W-2 and 1099 income. So what's the deal with that? Because you can't, it's a mix.
Yeah, so a lot of people that get a predominant amount of their income, that is 1099, think about like a contractor, right? Like I'm a plumber, and so everyone can write me checks through that business, right? It's like Malleolo Plumbing, and it's great because then I can essentially everything you do for the most part is for your business, right? There's a lot of gray area there. It's cool for taxes and things like that, and people like that, and you can toe the line there. But the minute you get paid W-2 income, you have other sources of on-the-record income. It's very difficult tax-wise to write a lot of that stuff off. And you could do it, but you have to really, as an individual, you probably could do it, and there might be some upside, but there might be just as much red tape. So whenever I ask my tax guy, my financial planner, it's not worth it because I have W-2 income, and then I also have business partners. So it doesn't. I can't put it through the gym, or a lot of people hey, pay the gym. It's better that way. And it all depends on your goals. It's even if you own if you're just now doing that, what other services are you offering? You don't want to do anything funky or illegal. So you really should just do the research on, is it the right way to do it? A lot of people that if you're a sole owner of a gym and now you're coaching, that makes sense, right? So I go out to a seminar and I get paid for that work. Well, yeah, that falls under the umbrella of what you do at the gym. And then that also is good for tax purposes. It makes it easier, right?
Okay, so if I had Megan's gym, and I wasn't getting W-2 income, and I'm getting 10-night contractor with CrossFit,
right? Or anyone,
I make
right?
an LLC
right.
for myself.
Because you could go, do anything at a gym, right? You could go, and get paid for that, and it's easier for you just to get that money to pay to the gym, because then whether it goes into your salary, your distributions, or a bonus, it will be a little easier to deal with than to have this random income that you then have to allot for at the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's why if you can funnel everything into one, it does make life easier. But the minute it gets a little complex,
it seems a little too complex
for me. Because I tried and it failed.
Yeah,
it didn't work.
Yeah,
my guy's like, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so we're going to segue into the gym related questions. So, why do you think? I hear this a lot that people think when they open a CrossFit gym that they're going to make a ton of money.
Yeah.
Okay, and then when they open the gym, I always hear that they're like, I have no money. Like, what? Why is it like so extreme? Like, is that just like an assumption, or like, what is the real? Because I don't own a gym, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's. I think it's really simple, right? It's like, oh, look, you have 200 members and they pay $200 a month, so you're making, that's over $1 million a year. Well, to get there, to have your average, there's a lot of things that need to happen for you to have 200 members paying an average of $200 a month to get your gross revenue there, and then you have all your expenses. What people often forget is that you have to spend money to make money, and then in the service industry, how do you make money? You coach, you work, right? So I think that's something that a lot of people forget. It's like, Meagan, if you want to make more money, what do you have to do? You have to coach more, right? And at some point you burn out. So the gym industry is difficult when it comes to that perspective. You can absolutely do it. It's just a long, slow burn. You can have a successful career with owning a gym. It takes time. And I think sometimes people get a little rushed. And also, if you plan on coaching 20 plus hours a week, you're probably going to burn out in a year or two. So you need to have some sort of plan there. The best advice I can give anyone is have a business plan with goals, and literally have a real business plan. If you were to present it to like a bank for a loan, what would that look like? And then have it mapped out. And when is your return on your investment going to happen on your capital you put in and all those things. But you can open up a gym with passion, and most likely in about 2 years you're going to fail unless that you learn how to run a business.
Okay.
You have to run a business, and numbers matter. Care and passion matters, but you need to understand the numbers.
So do you feel like it was a little bit more to your advantage? I know, because I used to work at One Nation, so JC is a numbers guy, so beneficial to have him, versus, or a partner in general, versus just doing it on your own.
Absolutely. Think about any team, right? If you and I are on a team, if you have the same exact skill set I have, why are we on a team, right? So you got to find someone that is different different than you, and so with JC, my business partner, he knows the numbers so well. So it's great. It's great. So you have to just balance each other out. That's key.
Even with I'm sure some people will be like, well, I had a business partner, but then we, clashed. I'd rather do it by myself. I guess it's just personal preference at that point. Yeah, I mean, if you have the skill set to do it, then do it. If not, I would get a partner. But it's also I don't know. For some reason in the CrossFit world, some people I do CrossFit, I'm passionate, and I don't want a partner. Someone doing you wouldn't do that in any other line of work, right? I really like baking cupcakes. I'm going to start a cupcake company. It's you might want to do some more work there. Yeah. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
So I think people do think it's and it is, I would say, relatively easy to open an affiliate, but I like
low barrier to entry.
The CrossFit One Nation gyms are nice, and they have a design and all that stuff. So if I wanted to go out and open Meagan's gym and it be nice, maybe not big nice, but how much money do I need?
Where? Around the Boston area? Suburbs?
Yeah. Maybe suburbs, not right in the city.
Yeah, $250,000 from scratch.
Yeah, and not many people are doing that.
Not anymore. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing.
Well, now you probably need to a little bit more.
Well, that's the thing. Now is different than even 5 years ago. But if you want to,
wow.
Yeah.
See, I think that's stuff people don't realize.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to do it right, for 6 to 10,000 square foot space. Obviously, if it's 3 to 5, it's going to be a little cheaper. But because then you have bathrooms and you have to make retrofit it. You can have $50,000 to $60,000 of equipment.
Okay,
right?
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. And then you have payroll. So I mean, that's $250K, you know, if you're doing it right. But you know, you could open up a shitty little garage gym for $100,000, not even, right? But nowadays you can't do it because you know you're competing against like a Barry's boot camp and an Orange Theory Fitness, and you walk in there and it's beautiful, and it's, you know, they work out. You know, it's not, you know, unfortunately people want nice showers. They want a nice facility. Mm-hmm. Your coaching's awesome, but it's not going to get new members, and it's not going to have people walk in there. Yeah, so you'll keep them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hell yeah.
That was it.
Nice. All right, gang.
Good info.
Yeah, good info. If you have questions, love it, hate it, let us know. See you later.